All right, welcome guys. Welcome to a new video. I know it's been way too long since I posted anything, but we did just get some very new, very funky reveals from OP-09, which is a set that will shake up the meta completely. So I did think now that we have all of the leaders revealed, we'll take a look at them, we'll go over them individually, see kind of what we think is going to be the new best decking format, if there is going to be a new best decking format, and where these leaders kind of place. I'm not going to do a tier list. I'm just going to do like a more in-depth discussion. Obviously, we don't know too much because we don't have the support for the leaders yet. We only know what the leaders do themselves. But based on that, we're going to make just a quick evaluation of where their place in the meta could be, you know. So we're gonna go in color order, starting with red, which is the first color. So we've got Shanks here, which is a red leader, and he's the 4 Emperors tagged, and he's red hair pirates tagged. 5,000 power, 5 life, nothing special there. Monocolored. And his effect is basically, it's worded weirdly, all right? Most of these leaders have their attack, like their effects worded differently than what we're used to. We'll see with the upcoming cards, or if there's like a rule change or something, like for what reason they're doing this. But I've just decided to completely disregard the different wording, and we're gonna just read them off as they seem like they're gonna be played. Which means that Shanks' effect is on opponent's attack, give minus 1,000 power to an opponent's leader or character for the turn. Which is, it's basically like an additional 1k counter, right? Could be more depending on if they restand and stuff, but generally it's going to be basically an additional 1k counter whenever your opponent attacks, right? Which means they can't do their little tiny stabs, they can't swing 5k with leader, like for free every turn. Which basically means that this guy has 6k power, but only for one attack, which doesn't seem that strong, to be honest. And frankly, red has usually been very rushy, right? Been very aggressive. That's kind of their thing. And to see a defensive ability like this on a red leader, I feel like it doesn't quite make sense. Obviously, we'll see what kind of support they're gonna give Shanks, but the way it's looking right now, I don't think it's gonna be too good of a leader. I do think it's gonna be good that you can keep your resources, you know, counter without throwing away resources. But I do think we just have a better leader in mono red, and that is Whitebeard, who does do the same thing basically, where he doesn't have to counter out of the small 5k swings, and he also just has more life, which means more cards. So from the way I see it right now, it looks like it's just not going to do that well. But obviously, we'll have to wait and see the support it gets. I don't think I have anything more to say about Shanks. Unfortunately, it doesn't look too good for this Shanks leader, which we've seen before with Shanks' second bad leader. If the support is not there. So moving on to the next leader, we've got Lim, I think she's called. Yeah, this one is an interesting one. She's 5k, 4 life, dual colored, green and purple. And her effect is all of your characters enter play rested, which is obviously a drawback because it makes them vulnerable for attacks. And the way I see this is that they want to go like the iceberg / Vegapunk route, where they want to make a leader that kind of spams out characters or whatever, but they realize that the your leader can't attack trait was too detrimental. So they're trying something different here, I think. Basically, that's the first part of her effect. And then the second part is that you can rest 3 Dawn to play a 5 cost or lower Odyssey character from your hand, and ramp a Dawn rested. Which is interesting, right? Because already on 3, you can go Bop, you can get a 5k 5 cost out. Obviously, they'll be rested, so that's not too good because your opponent's just going to swing into it. But if they do end up dropping her a good of 5k support, like 5k 5 costs can be you know, 6k power, 7k power if it's like a vanilla stated one, which could be really good because it's not going to let your opponent just swing into that like without additional resources, basically. So there is potential there, but it seems like it's going to be a slower deck, and then you're ramping, right? But we don't know what you're ramping for yet. Like, are they going to drop some kind of 10 cost Odyssey character that goes kind of crazy? We don't know. But it does seem like the purple characters in this set is going to be very Straw Hat based. So it is possible that like they just make those Straw Hat characters Odyssey tagged, like they make them the Straw Hat characters from the Odyssey game, which does mean that Lim here could get some good support. But for now, we're not sure. I think it could be an alright deck. Definitely not one of the better ones, but I think it's fun. I love these types of leaders. I play Vegapunk, I play Iceberg. You know, I've had my hand at Rebecca for a little while as well. So like the more interesting decks out there, I've tried, and I actually main like Vegapunk and Iceberg when Iceberg was a thing. So this is really interesting. I love to see it. I love that when they try to get a little bit more creative with their leader abilities, but unfortunately don't really see a place in the meta for Lim, but very interesting deck and could have potential depending on the engine. Moving on to the next card. Speaking of interesting cards, we have Buggy. Hell yeah. Everybody's been waiting for a Buggy leader, and not to be the guy is gonna be the guy, but they dropped it in the best color possible. I think we all wanted a blue Buggy. Buggy's sick. Blue is probably the most fun colors to play right now, as they're still competitively viable, but they're not, you know, they're not RP law, which is why everyone's a big fan of blue right now. Things like Dofi and Boa, you know, are really fun decks. People love drawing cards, which these decks do. And now with Saka gone, you know, there's nobody's complaining about blue anymore. And he actually has a really interesting ability. First of all, he has 5k power, 5 life, mono blue. He's tagged 4 emperors as well as cross skilled. And his ability is that you rest 5 Dawn and you trash a card from your hand to play a cross skilled character from your hand. So basically, you're going to be discounting all of your characters, basically, right? I mean, we can hope that they just print a bunch of 10 cost cross-skilled characters like Mihawk, Crocodile, That's Bones. Like, all those are going to be very high costed so that they become discounted with the ability. That's basically what I see happening. Which means that, you know, potentially on 5 Dawn, you can just up and then, you know, bring out a 10 cost, and that's going to be a huge, like, turn of the tides, you know, like a game turner. Because they, you know, if you drop out like a 12k fucking beater, you know, even if that's just a vanilla, that's gonna be very, very powerful that early in the game. You know, they're not getting rid of that. No way, no how. And obviously the problem with Buggy, the drawback, is that you have to trash a card, which is bad, sure, but in blue you have so many different things that just draws you card. Like if you the turns literally go like this. Okay, 1 Dawn, you play like a Searcher or something. I'm sure they'll drop a 1 cost Searcher, or maybe you just play like a Perona, stack your deck or whatever. And then on 3 Dawn, I'll play a Pilaf. Boom, now you're +1. Now on your 5 Dawn turn, you can do this and you won't lose like hand size against your opponent, right? Because you're +1 from the Pilaf, you're -1 from the leader ability. Boom, ±0. And you've established a 10 cost body on your 5 Dawn turn. And frankly, that's not even the main problem with Buggy. The main problem with Buggy is that he says, he doesn't say once per turn, right? He says, do this however many times you want as long as you have 5 Dawn. Which means on 10 Dawn, you can do this twice. Which is insane, because you could potentially cheat out 2 10 cost characters with like on play effects and stuff, and then, you know, that's 2 12k beaters, and then they're done. Like this, I'm not sure how you're gonna come back from that. Yes, you do lose hand size, but again, you can just work that up with the cards that draws you card. I mean, you could literally play this like Nami, where you play like Love Love Mellow, and then you play like 4 Pilaf and then 4 Impel Down All Stars, so that all your triggers are just gonna draw you cards, which is, you know, one way to do it. And I think Buggy's really strong. I think obviously he's very reliant on what kind of cross-skilled characters we're gonna see. If we end up seeing only like 7-cost Mihawks and stuff, then obviously this is not gonna be as good, because you're basically discarding a card to give a slight discount to your characters. So it all depends on what cards he's gonna get. Hopefully, you know, I'm expecting great things from Buggy. I do think he is a fan favorite. So hopefully they'll do him justice. And if they do that, I think that this leader has some great potential to really, really shake up the meta and force people to kind of think differently about how they build their decks. But moving on to the next leader, we have Gear 5 Luffy. Gear 5 Luffy is a 5k power, 4 life leader, Straw Hat Crew, and 4 Emperors. And he is purple and black, which is pretty interesting. Basically, this set, like I've said before, we're gonna most likely have purple Straw Hat support, and this leader is probably black because they're trying to do this whole thing that they did with the starter deck that hasn't come here yet, but it's out in Japan, which is the 2 years in Sabaody starter deck, the time skip starter deck, which basically tries to give your own characters plus cost so that they're more hard to remove, and then like you get effects like I think there's a Sanji or something that says, oh, if you have a 8 cost or higher character on the field, you gain this thing, which is basically what they're trying to do here. They're trying to mix and match the purple Straw Crew with the like black side of increasing costs to your own characters, which is why his ability is, first of all, Dawn X1, your characters have +1 cost. Which is, first of all, great. I'm so sick and tired of black, like, on curve, being able to remove your entire board all the time, over and over again. So with something like this, on your, like, 3 Dawn turn, you can just, like, you know, if you have no place, you just pop a Dawn on this guy, and then, you know, all your characters have +1. So, like, things like Lucci can't just be free. Or, like, you know, like, it gives more... It ruins their curve a little bit, and it gives you more protection for just 1 Dawn, right? Which is, I think, is a great like extra ability to have. But his main ability, which is like the purple side of things, is once per turn, on your turn, whenever you return 2 or more Dawn back to your Dawn deck, so basically a Dawn -2 or my Dawn -5 effect, whatever, anything over 2, you get to add 1 rested Dawn and 1 active Dawn from your Dawn deck. So basically it's 5-cost Kid, the blocker 5-cost Kid, or the 3-cost Pudding that's coming out in 08. But it's on a leader, and it's 2 Dawn. 1 Dawn active, 1 Dawn rested. And frankly, this is, if we're gonna be honest, this is an attempt to make the Gear 5 Secret Rare Luffy from set 5 a more viable card than it is. At the moment, it is only seeing play in Red Purple Luffy, which I think is unfortunate. I think it is a sick card. I think it's really fun, but unfortunately, the meta has not allowed him to do what he needs to do and what he wants to do, and he's basically only worked as a finisher. Well, now you have this leader, right? And this leader, I think, at least in my opinion, who has played a lot with this Gear 5 Luffy, I think that Gear 5 Luffy for sure will be viable as just a 10 Dawn play in this, because you're gonna go, boom, on 10 Dawn, you're gonna go Gear 5 Luffy, you're gonna remove all of your Dawn. This leader ability is gonna say, oh, here, you can bring 2 back, right? And then you're a 2 Dawn. You can now use the Gear 5 Luffy effect, which is basically on Onigashima, right? You for 1 Dawn, you can ramp 1 active Dawn. So you just, you basically just add a rested Dawn. And you can do that straight away. And then you're at 3. And then you pass your turn. It comes back to you. You're at 5 now. You can use the ability again, which puts you to 6 with 5 active. And with 5 active, there's so much you can do. So that's great. And then you can just start building your board back up again from there. without having lost too many resources, while establishing a 12k body, while you've restood your leader, you have drawn an additional card, and now you have this Onigashima that has 12k power on board, which is obviously great, right? And you haven't lost that much resources, unlike something like 10 cost Kaido, right? Or like it's more like 10 cost Kaido now, where it's like you don't lose that much. You lose a fair bit, but it's not like game breaking. You're not gonna go back to 0. So this is great. This is lovely. I love to see it. Definitely gonna have fun experimenting with this leader and this deck. One of my favorite things is the Gear 5 Luffy card. Thank God I got a playset of those when they were cheap. They're probably gonna go up in price like crazy now that we know about this leader. But yeah, I definitely think this has a place in the meta. Do I think it's gonna be meta breaking? No. I do think it's gonna be one of the top tier decks, but I don't think it's gonna be so crazy that it's like gonna be like the one. I don't think it's gonna be best deck in format. All right. Moving on to the next leader, we've got the very anticipated Robin leader. So this is Nico Robin, 5k power, 4 life, and this is purple and yellow, which is an interesting combination that we've only seen once before, and we've seen it on Crocodile, which makes you think, oh, is this gonna be Baroque's? Is this gonna be Baroque's world leader? Because it's similar to the Baroque's leader that we've had before. But no, this is just a regular Straw Hat crew, which, it's fine, but I have a hard time seeing the combination of colors here. Whereas like at least in yellow purple Croc, there's the 8 cost Croc, which heals, which combines then with yellow and their triggers and stuff, and then that whole thing. Whereas here we don't really know what's going on. Like this could have been a mono yellow card, but since they're printing support for Straw Hats in purple, they had to make her purple as well. But moving on, her ability is basically she has Banish, right? Flat out, she just has Banish, which is sick. First time we've seen that on a leader. Very interesting, very threatening, because you're basically never gonna take this hit, right? Like it's not worth taking this hit. Like just in like an 8k swing, just like with double attack Yamato, an 8k swing off the bat is really bad, because you don't want to throw away 2Ks to defend it, but you also don't want to take it. Especially if you are playing in yellow and that you have like a trigger on top, and then boom, Banish, it's just gone. It doesn't matter if you triggered anything. So this is I love to see them trying different things like this. This is great. But then her ability is actually just when attacking, trash a trigger card from your hand to ramp 1 Rested Dawn. Which I think we've seen something similar before. I think it is red, purple Uta. That just goes like, oh, trash a film card, ramp a Dawn. But then that card also says like give -2k to something. So I don't think this is gonna be that good. I think it's interesting that you could go like on 3 or 4 Dawn, you can just go, oh, I'm gonna use leader ability, and then I'm also gonna use the other Dawn to play a ramp card, and then you can ramp 2 Dawn in 1 turn, and it can go very fast with cards like this that ramp with leader ability. We've seen it with the purple Luffy, where you can go up really, really fucking fast, and then you can drop like these big guys like 9 cost Kaido and stuff. So definitely an interesting thing here, but like I said, we've seen it with Uta, and it didn't do well. So if there's anything that's gonna carry this leader above the top, it will probably be the Banish part of the leader. Otherwise, it's a very interesting card. In general, I'm not gonna talk too much about it. I don't think it's gonna be that good, unfortunately. But obviously, we'll see. We'll wait and see about sport. But right now, it's not looking great for Robin, unfortunately. But moving on to our last and final leader number 6, which is Blackbeard. And this is where things get interesting, right? He is a mono black leader, 5k power, 5 life, 4 Emperors tagged, as well as Blackbeard Pirates tagged. This is Marshall D. Teach, aka Blackbeard. And his effect is kind of nutty. He says, basically, first of all, first part of the effect is your own on-play abilities are negated. Which is bad, right? That's a downside. But basically, all the support we've seen so far from Blackbeard are just activate mains, right? Instead, to work around that, they have cards that... I think they have a card that says activate main if your card has been played this turn, do this, which is just another workaround for like on plays, right? You don't have to worry about the on play things being negated because you just have activate mains instead. So it basically just says, hey, you're not gonna be able to use the basic like black staples that we've seen in other black decks like Gecko Moria, Forecast Lucci, and stuff like that, because they're gonna be negated, right? But you can at least play these Blackbeard cards. So it's basically like Rebecca, right? Where you're kind of forced to play a certain archetype. And Blackbeard's gonna be under that umbrella as well, where he's gonna basically be forced to play majority Blackbeard Pirates cards. And then we're moving on to his second ability, the second part of his leader ability, which is where things get interesting. This says, on your turn, trash a card to negate your opponent's on-play abilities on their next turn. Which basically means that on your turn, you just trash a card and you go like, hey, man, you don't get to use your on-play abilities. Which the way we assume it's working is that like if you play a Gecko Moria, you know, after your opponent has activated this ability, you still get to play the Moria. It just comes out flat, but the effect doesn't activate, right? Which I think is great. I think this leader is lovely. I think the only time this leader becomes a problem is because all of the decks kind of right now really rely on plays. I think we've moved very crazily onto an on-play meta, which is, you know, it's normal. Things usually that gives, you know, that instant reward when the second you play it. Obviously, they first of all feel better, but then obviously they have a, you know, they work better because in this meta we have so much removal, so that if you don't get that reward straight away, you risk not getting anything at all because it gets removed on your opponent's turn. So I think this is great because first of all, it scares off people like Lucci and Law and stuff that, you know, really rely on their on plays, which is great. But I think I've seen at least a couple people just glazing this man. I think this deck is gonna need a really, really good pilot to be good. I think this deck has a lot of potential, but I think I think you can play around it more easy than people think. I think that because this leader basically says, hey, all of you guys that are in this meta right now, you're cooked. Right? He basically says, hey, we're going to switch up the meta. We're going to remove all this old stuff, and then we're going to bring in these new leaders, and they're going to be so much better, and like they're not going to be countered by Blackbeard. Because if you look at something like Buggy here, right? If you rest 5 Dawn and discard a card to play like a 10-cost cross-skill character, right? It's not that deep if he doesn't get his on-play, right? You still establish a big body, and your opponent has discarded a card to negate an ability that might not even be that deep. Frankly, they might even print a 10-cost vanilla for Cross-Guild, and that will still be a good card to print, and Blackbeard wouldn't do anything about it. As well as we have like other options, right? Like the thing this will do, right, is that it'll make people tech in cards that don't have on plays, like things like event cards, right? Those have the same intention as like an on play. You get that instant effect when you play it, but they're not on plays, they're just main. So you can still play events like stuff. So if your Blackbeard, he goes, oh, my Buggy has come to 5 Dawn now, he's probably gonna use his leader effect next turn and play a big card. I should probably use my leader ability to trash something. So the Blackbeard trashes a card, he goes -1. And then on my turn, I'm aware that I don't have any on plays, so I'm just going to play something else. I'm just going to play like a Sanji's Pilaf and swing 7 instead of playing my leader ability. and then instead of going minus, I go plus, while my Blackbeard opponent has gone minus, just trying to anticipate my moves. So I think it's going to take a really skilled pilot to know when to use the leader ability, and when that using that leader ability is going to really impact the game in your favor, right? If you use it on the wrong turn, your opponent could just play around it and you've gone -1 for no reason. Whereas if you know the game, right? Let's say you're playing against the Black Yellow Luffy with Blackbeard, and they're reaching their 10 Dawn turn, right? You're like, they're gonna go to 10 Dawn. They're really gonna want to play Moria this turn and use leader ability and stuff and bring out a bunch of characters. Oh wait, all of those characters are on-play characters. So if you use your leader ability, they're literally gonna have to do nothing, right? The best thing they can do is play like a flat-out character, and then, you know, like do stuff. But they need that Moria to get their resources back. Otherwise, their deck is really fucking shitty. Which means Blackbeard, if piloted by a good player, can really counter something like that. So I think that's a really interesting part of what Blackbeard, like his place in the meta. I think he definitely has a place, but I do not think he's as good as people kind of thought when they first saw him and they were like, oh, he counters shit. I don't think he is all that, and I think it takes a really skilled player to pilot this deck. Other than that, I guess if I were to do like a quick rundown of kind of which order I think these leaders are gonna go down in, I reckon it's gonna be Buggy's probably gonna be the best one at the moment. Obviously, this relies very much heavily on support, which all these decks, mind you, this is my judgment before we've seen like any support, and this is just based off leader ability and colors and stuff, etc. You know, I think Buggy is the #1 best ability. I think Luffy is probably the second best, and then we got Blackbeard in third. We've got Lim in fourth, Shanks in fifth, and then lastly, I'm unfortunately gonna place Robin in last. That is my just a quick rundown of what I think the good leaders are. We obviously with support, we're gonna see a huge change in this opinion very quickly. Turns out they're only gonna drop 5 cost cross guild characters. Then obviously this deck is gonna suck, like something like that, you know. Or if they drop really good Odyssey characters, that's gonna change too. And if they drop crazy, I don't know, something here, whatever, you get my point. All right. So personally, I'm really excited for set 9. I think we all are. It's an anniversary set, crazy leaders, meta changes, and stuff. And I think all these decks will be really fun to build, which is actually the most important thing. Is that we have fun building decks, right? That is what I'm most excited about, is all these different cards coming and all the different leaders and they doing different things and stuff. Very excited for set 9, and I hope you are too. If you're still here watching, thank you so much for watching. I know it's been a little bit dragged out, and I do apologize for that. But we're gonna end it right here. I do hope that you enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment saying Buggy is the GOATs. And I'll see you next time. Bye.